Good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel. We'd like to thank you, the view, for staying with us here on Hilaal TV, TSTV channel 347. Today we are coming to with an extended half an hour more, as we're going to be looking ahead to that march to Gaza, where over 1,000, if not 3,000 activists will be marching to the Rafah border to demand the opening of it to allow aid to go in as the genocide in Gaza continues. Let's start off with, of course, with our first guest. I'd like to bring in Megan Choritz, who is a member of the South African Jews for a Free Palestine. Megan, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I think, Megan, this week is going to shape, I think, the history of solidarity in Palestine. One would think. You, of course, had the flotilla, the Madeleine. Many of the activists there were taken hostage, and, of course, some of them were released. But what we're about to see this weekend, I think, could eclipse a lot whether or not the actual gates will open, and whether or not we will see this as a success.
I think you're right, and I think that there's an element of this global march to Gaza that is already a success. But unfortunately, what's happened is I literally just received news that over 300 marchers from all different countries, including South Africa, Germany, Turkey, Canada, and the UK, have had their passports taken away, and they are detained on the road. So I think we can expect a lot of that to happen. I'm not as confident as I was before that the march would actually take place.
Megan, I want to touch on, obviously, the Egypt factor to this, because the Egyptian president, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, has been a figure of controversy. When you speak to the people of Palestine, it's quite clear they call him a sellout to the Israeli government. No one's expecting him to do a favor for these activists. That's quite clear.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I think it's not only Egypt. I think it's a lot of the surrounding Arab countries that have been problematic, certainly in showing any kind of support for the Palestinian struggle. I think, though, that there was so much preparation that was done with this march, and there was so many hoops and rings to run through, and it felt like a lot of that work had been done. And so there is still a pleading with the Egyptian authorities to let this march happen, to express that it is a peaceful march, to ask for permission within all the boundaries that they set to actually go ahead. But they certainly don't seem to be doing that. It seems I've just received news that Zweli Velile Mandla Mandela has also had his passport taken away, and that he's also stranded and out of Cairo, and that this has happened to over 300 of the marches so far.
Megan, there's a group of South Africans that are, of course, went from various sectors of society. I think one of the interesting takes on this is the country that took Israel to the ICJ. So obviously there's the positive spin to this, which is that, again, South Africa maintains its solidarity with Palestine. And the other part of this, they're under the watchful eye of this Egyptian government, which has really this elements of authoritarianism to it. I beg your pardon, just a lot of words to chew there. But that's it. So a lot of it has to be looked at with a magnifying glass. But one would hope that even though these passports are being taken away, this march will go ahead and actually be a success, as many are hoping for.
Absolutely. There is still the hope, and we are still pleading with the Egyptian authorities to let the march go ahead. That's very much what we are still hoping for, and what we are, that's certainly the aim. We've got over 50 South Africans who have gone over to Cairo, and who had intended to make this trip through the Sinai Desert. I do believe, though, that even if the march is going to be called off at this late stage, that it has already proven a success in terms of publicity, in terms of solidarity. And we can't see it in isolation. We need to see it alongside the Madleen Freedom Flotilla. We need to see it alongside the various marches and protests that are happening around the world, where I think in general people are saying to their governments, if you're not going to do anything, we are. We are going to be active. We are going to show a more forceful form of solidarity.
Megan, Zionism, is this moving closer to the end of the road for them? You look at the Israeli Knesset, there seems to be major divisions there. Its parliament's in an absolute chaos. They've decided they just want to attack Iran because they feel the need to, given that even though Iran is complying with the Atomic Agency, with the UN nuclear watchdog, Israel felt it was their need to do it. And of course, Israel continues this genocide in Gaza. Surely this road to Zionism, the end of it, it's there, isn't it?
Well, it should be. And however soon it comes, it is still too late. Zionism is a failure of an ethno-state. Zionism is the failure of Jewish supremacy. Zionism is colonialism and supremacy at its absolute worst. And this is the death of Zionism is the only option and the only possibility. It's just that it's come so late and at the expense of so many innocent lives.
Megan, absolute pleasure having you, and thank you so much for joining us here on News in Focus.
Thank you for having me.
That's Megan Choritz. She's a member of the South African Jews for a Free Palestine. We continue this conversation after the break. I'm going to be having Tawfiq Hussein and Khalid Vauda to talk and keep the conversation going with regards to this global march for Gaza. Do stay tuned.